Hello and welcome to Mostly Vintage Cameras. This might appear to be a fairly random selection of cameras, and this video is a little bit different to some other videos I've made because recently in the past week or so I've gone a little bit mad on eBay, and given the glacial speed at which I make videos, I thought it might be quite fun to have just a quick show and tell type of presentation about recent eBay purchases. So let's slide some of these around a little bit and see what we have. Just create a little bit of room here. Now underneath this cloth is a camera that's a little bit special for me at any rate. Slightly bigger, slightly more expensive than I think any other camera I've shown on this channel previously. I'm quite pleased about this, but that's going to be a special bonus at the end of the video. So let's start at the other extreme with this little guy. No prizes for guessing it's a Minox. Came with a case and a measuring chain. I'm just going to put to one side, and there it is. A little Minox Model C. Now these are one of the more popular Minox sub-miniature cameras. This is made in Germany, but this is in a slightly more unusual black paint finish, most are chrome. Now this was advertised as spares or repair, and apparently had a shutter fault, and that is indeed the case, sadly. But that's okay, I didn't pay a lot for it, and mostly I bought it as a companion to my chrome Minox C. So I've got a sort of a yin and yang thing going on here now, if for nothing else, for display purposes. That being said, I'll probably send this off to MS Hobbies at some point and ask them if they can fix it. Although I suspect there's corrosion to the circuit board and it might be too far gone on this particular one. But only time will tell, we shall see. So that's the Minox C. That was the first thing I bought on eBay, this week at any rate. And before we go on to the next item, I just want to introduce the interactive element of this video, which is your opportunity to subscribe to this channel. I don't often ask viewers to subscribe to my channel in my videos, but as this video is a little bit different, I thought I'd do that today. Subscribing on YouTube tells YouTube that you like this sort of content, and then YouTube can recommend other camera, film and photographic content to you. So if you want to see more content of that nature, subscribing to this channel and others like it will help YouTube understand your preferences. From my point of view, of course, the more people subscribe to my channel, the more confidence YouTube has in recommending my videos to people who aren't subscribed. So it's a win-win situation. So I'll just give you a moment to go ahead and click that button. 3, 2, 1. Did you do it? Thank you so much if you did, I do appreciate it. And if you didn't, that's okay too. Now, the Minox camera we were looking at was created by Walter Zapp, and he was never terribly comfortable with the association of his cameras and his brand with espionage and spying and that sort of thing. What he wanted was a camera that was simple to use, that anyone could put it in a purse or a pocket and take snapshots at will whenever they fancied it. Now our next camera sort of follows the same idea, but in a very different way. This is a Boots Pacemaker LP. Now anyone watching this in the UK will be immediately familiar with the Boots branding, known as Boots the Chemist. And in the UK we call chemists what you might call a pharmacy or an apothecary in other parts of the world. But pharmacists, or druggists as they would have been known in the Edwardian and Victorian times, have a long association with photography, because when you had to coat your own plates or develop your own films at home, you bought your chemistry from the chemist. And later on, of course, it might be that the chemist would develop or the pharmacist would develop the film for you. Now I bought this. This is a 1970s pretty cheap and cheerful camera, largely plastic construction, because I saw in the photographs it had this odd, at least odd to me looking, exposure system. Now on the front of the camera is a selenium cell. That isn't coupled to the lens controls, but it has a little match needle on the display here, which probably is hard to see. So this little needle points at an aperture value, and some of the aperture values are in chrome and some are in black. So you simply look at the meter, and let's say for the sake of argument it says f8. We've got a little control here that we set to f8, and we take our picture. But there's something a bit strange about it, because if I set f8, I'm also setting 125th of a second. The aperture and the shutter speeds are coupled and cannot be uncoupled. So f8 is always 125th of a second. f4 is always a 60th of a second. And that seemed a bit strange to me. If you're making a camera for an enthusiast photographer, you would presumably want to have the aperture and the shutter speed set manually. Now, this camera was made not by Boots themselves, but by a company called the King Camera Company in Germany, or as it says on the back here, Western Germany. And this was also sold as the King Sprinty BC300, I believe. So slightly unusual control there for the exposure. If you're making a camera to be used as a family camera, which I believe this was, casual photographers and family photographers, they're not really going to care about f numbers and shutter speeds. I would have thought if that was your target audience for this, it would have made more sense to have had a scale that ran from 1 to 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. and change this scale to read 1 to 9. So if it says 6, you set this to number 6. So I was curious about that. Anyway, it's a fun little camera. It was very inexpensive, both when I bought it and back in the day when it was new. And I'm very much looking forward to trying that out. Our next eBay treasure is similar and yet different again. This is a Voigtlander Vito B, with apologies to any native German speakers. Now recently I did a full video, if you will, on the Vito C. It's a younger cousin, relative at any rate. So the Vito C replaced the Vito B, and as you can see, it's absolutely huge in comparison. That being said, this is a B, this is a C, which was the entry level of the Vito C range. There was a C, a CL, and so on and so forth. And it has a Lanthar lens on it, and I was very impressed with how sharp that lens was. The other Vito C cameras had a colour Scopar lens, which is meant to be an even better lens. So I was quite keen to try a colour Scopar lens and also to try a Vito B, and this has a colour Scopar and it's a Vito B. Lovely little camera. This particular one is a little bit beaten up. When I'm making videos for this channel, simply I don't have unlimited funds to buy cameras, so I tend to buy the cheapest one available, which is usually not in the best condition. But very pleased to have it. And again, very much looking forward to trying this out and seeing if this colour Scopar lens lives up to the hype. Now so far we've looked at some very interesting cameras of very different styles, and yet all designed to be kind of easy to use family picture cameras. But now, as the saying goes, for something completely different. A Nikon F60. I bought this as an SLR body. I've just put a 35-70 lens on it. This of course is a 1990s or perhaps early 2000s 35mm SLR camera, an entry-level model. Now all those other cameras, the Minoxes and the Voigtlanders and so forth, they're all fun, they're all interesting, but if what you want is a camera to take photographs of a high quality fairly easily, you really can't beat an entry-level SLR from the 90s or early 2000s. They offer so much value for money and so many features. This was, you can easily pick these up, these bodies, for under £30. This 35-70 I've had for a long time, and I bought it with another camera which cost me £15. So for very little money I've got a very capable SLR camera with a nice lens on it. Nothing too much to say about it at this time. It is what it is. I've done lots of reviews of entry-level SLR cameras on the channel, and they've all been interesting in their way. So if you're looking to get started in 35mm photography or in film photography, many people will say, oh, you've got to have a manual camera, you've got to have a mechanical camera and all of this sort of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that approach at all. Pentax K1000 is frequently recommended and is a very good camera. But what I would say is that when you use one of these cameras, when you use these in manual, these are a lot nicer and easier to use in manual than an all manual mechanical camera. So if you want to learn about photography but also have a day off from time to time, then something like this is well worth considering, and very, very good value for money. So let me pop that to one side, and so we come to the special bonus camera. Very pleased about this. But what is it? There we go. This is a Bronica SQA, The SQA came out around about 1983. It's a modular 6x6 or 2 1/4 square medium format camera, SLR camera. Is that the right button for that? No. Try again. I'm struggling a little bit because I haven't really used one of these in something like 30 years. But all the components of a 6x6 SLR tend to come apart. Now, I've been very fortunate in that I don't have the standard lens. This arrived with the 50mm PE lens, and I also got the auto exposure metering prism, as well as the speed grip, which I'm not going to take off at this moment in time. So very happy to have this. It's in a pretty nice condition, I have to say. I'm going to put the film back on first because it's easier to put the back on without the finder there. Now, when I first started working in camera shops back in the early 90s, or early 80s, I beg your pardon, these cameras were around, and I worked for a dealer that sold Bronica and Hasselblad, and a little bit of mostly used Mamiya, and even Toyo 5.4 rail cameras. These days you call it a pro dealer, I dare say, but it was just a camera shop back then. So there we go, the Bronica SQA. Very pleased to have this, very much looking forward to trying it out. Anyway, that's been my eBay haul for this week. A little PX27 battery creeping into shot from the Minox. I hope this video has been of interest, perhaps of use. Thank you so much, and if you didn't subscribe earlier, please consider doing so now. I really do appreciate it. All the best.